Somewhat condensed and altered from the original highly complex tale, with some events, actions and characteristics transposed to different characters, the 2024 French film version nonetheless remains faithful to the intentions and spirit of the original. It explores themes such as justice, revenge, fate, love, identity, education and hope, without sacrificing elements of action and adventure. Underpinning everything, however, are the precepts of the 18th century Enlightenment movement, which influenced thought, society and politics in the 19th century by casting doubt on the existence of God and morality, and demanding accountability from those responsible for government, law and order. These concepts are fundamental to the storyline and the principal theme of revenge, or justice, in The Count of Monte Cristo. Edmond Dantes is imprisoned not as a result of immorality or even a crime against French law, but as a consequence of human jealousy, spite and ambition, with three men conspiring to sacrifice his remaining life and potential deeds and influence to benefit their own interests, desires and aspirations. Dantes has no recourse to natural justice or God's law, French law or common humanity. These three men have colluded to deprive Edmond of what we would nowadays see as his human rights, and this act, taken to extremes, emphasises the possibility that if God and morality do not exist, all that remains is what men are capable of doing to one another if they are unwilling to show common respect and compassion, and if they are willing to place their own interests above the needs and rights of others. Edmond holds on to hope in the form of his memories of and love for Mercedes, the woman he was about to marry when he was abruptly arrested and condemned to a life of isolation and misery in the Château d'If, though even that begins to wane and he starts to despair. However, hope and even society are restored when the Abbé Faria, a fellow prisoner also condemned to rot in the Château d'If, makes contact by accident as he attempts to tunnel his way out of the formidable prison. The Abbé is an intelligent, wise and learned man who is willing to share not just his efforts to tunnel and escape, but also, and perhaps more importantly, his knowledge, wisdom and intelligence. He provides Edmond with an education as they study and contemplate truth, maths, languages, philosophy and reasoning. This has a twofold effect on Edmond. It effectively releases his mind from physical captivity by giving him purpose and a sense of spiritual achievement, and it enables Edmond to consider matters with discipline and understanding, calmly calculating responses and actions rather than responding emotionally and in haste. Of course, the Abbé's death allows Edmond to make a daring escape, and the Abbé has shared with him the whereabouts of a vast fortune, here the lost fortune of the Templars. The Abbé has, then, a huge impact on Edmond, both in life and in death, and it could be argued that God sent the Abbé, a man of God, to Edmond as a means of evolution and escape. Fate sees to it that Edmond crosses paths with numerous other characters essential to his story, and while a case may be made for divine intervention or the hand of fate, it should be recognised that the Abbé's impact was due to his personal qualities rather than because he was a man of God, and Edmond advances due to his determination, the choices he makes and the actions he takes. The fortune he has accessed may also be viewed as the result of divine intervention, fate or luck. But the point is, Edmond does not use it for self-indulgence or to abuse the power and influence his wealth affords him. He restricts himself to his own affairs and uses the money as a means of rewarding those he sees as deserving, though also as a means of fulfilling his dream of vengeance, but he is in control. He is disillusioned by society, its laws and its officers, and recognises no other authority but his own. Indeed, at one point in the film, Edmond enters a church and speaks directly to God, telling him that he, Edmond, will take responsibility for his actions and the punishment he will mete out on those who wronged him. Edmond has seen little evidence of God's justice, and so he declares he will impose his own brand of justice, though questions will eventually be raised concerning the difference between justice and revenge. This existential solution, with Edmond taking moral matters into his own hands because he fails to perceive any divine influence or input, leads eventually to the whole matter of the impact of our actions on others. Edmond, along with Andrea, Angèle and Haydée, wish to see retribution for what they have suffered at the hands of Danglars, Villefort and Morcerf. and Edmond has concocted a plan by which these men will suffer and lose what they gained through their mistreatment and abuse of others. However, pain, suffering and death are wrought upon innocents, or at least those not directly involved in the original wrongdoing, leading Haydée and Mercedes to point out to Edmond the potential injustice in terms of consequences for others of his plan and actions. Indeed, if he persisted in blindly actioning his plan without regard for the fate of those involved collaterally, he would be little better than those who originally betrayed him for their own advantage. Account must be taken of the effects of our actions on others, and this involves an appeal to humanity and conscience. Edmond brings about the carefully orchestrated downfall of his wrongdoers, but he is now no longer the same idealistic, positive and sweet man of his youth. Identity is governed principally by character and experience. Edmond was betrayed, sacrificed and forgotten by those he trusted and loved. And while resentment and thoughts of revenge provided purpose and fueled determination, allowing him to survive, escape and evolve into the Count of Monte Cristo, they came close to overwhelming him and transforming him into the type of creature of which he so rightly and heartily disapproved. Mercedes and Haydée managed to rekindle or recall his humanity, and Edmond limits himself, choosing to avoid killing Albert in a duel and advising Albert and Haydée to run off and be happy together, thus choosing life over revenge, recalling a choice made by Angèle earlier in the film. In at least one other film version, Edmond reconciles with Mercedes and lives happily with her and Albert, who may or may not be his own son. In the book, Haydée declares her love for Edmond and they set off for the Orient together. In this film, Albert and Haydée find love together and Edmond writes to Mercedes, telling her that while he still loves her, he is too scarred by his experiences to be able to fulfill their love. He is seen on board a ship, essentially alone, coming to terms with his past and seeking a new future. And I consider that an apt and fitting ending in keeping with the existential precepts expressed elsewhere in the film. I must say I found this version a pleasant surprise. I liked the balance between action and plot, and I enjoyed the well-developed characters and brisk direction. It has enough depth to engage and enough style to entertain, with strong performances all round, but especially by the villains of the piece. My thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it of some value.